So after we discover the affair, many of us fall into one of two camps when it comes to physical intimacy. We either go through what's called hysterical bonding, which is what I went through, and I can talk about that in another video. And some of us actually fall into the category of we don't want to be touched or be physically intimate with him at all. If that's the camp you fall into, we're going to talk about that in this video and maybe some ways in which you can re-engage physical intimacy at your speed with your husband. So stay tuned. I think we'd all agree that marriage involves emotional intimacy and physical intimacy. Both are very important to the health and well-being of any romantically based relationship. Okay, I think we can all agree. However, after trauma of an affair, it's really hard for many of us to separate out in our minds our physical act with our husband and what they did physically with another woman. We feel very plagued by those thoughts. We find it really hard to engage. We almost feel unsafe engaging physically because of those memories, those thoughts. If you, for instance, read any of their correspondence, maybe they sexted one another, that will forever plague you, right? Emails, pictures. If you've seen any of the evidence, if you've seen this stuff, it's ingrained because of PTSD. It will never go away. So I can completely understand how it may be challenging for many to become physically engaged in sexual activity with your spouse. Physical intimacy can be very challenging. Even the mere act of holding hands or sleeping in the same bed in some cases can be very challenging. So I'd like to make some recommendations if, and you might not be ready for this, but if you're watching this because you are at a place where you would like to start having some physical interaction with your spouse again, but you don't know how to get there because maybe it's been months and you feel awkward, you don't know what to do, let me give you some suggestions. First, and if you're watching this and you're a woman, I want you're going to relate to everything I'm going to say. And then this is just the truth of it, the way we're created, the way our minds work, the way our libidos function. For women, a lot of our sexual desire starts here, not down there, it's here, okay? Our minds are one of our sexiest attributes. We engage in a lot of thinking. That's why they say men are like microwaves and women are like crock pots, right? For men, because a lot of their sexuality lives with their sight, like that's why porn is so popular for men, is that they are visibly stimulated. So if they see us taking off our pants, good to go, right? For women, we're more like crock pots. We think about our husband during the day. We take some time to look forward to a date, things like that. We take a hot bath. We drink a glass of wine. We relax. Then we're ready, right? We build up to it. The heat builds up in us. It's not instantaneous. So, and I'm not saying for all women that's the case. I've had moments where that wasn't, where I was ready to go, like hysterical bonding, which I'll talk to you about in another video. But just consider this for a minute, that if that is the case and everything's starting here for us, how are we able to engage in emotional and physical intimacy with someone when what is happening up here are memories of him with another woman? That's the problem, right? And there's not a lot we can do about memories. There's not a lot we can do about the reality of our situation. Here we are. This is, it is what it is. This is what it is. So what I would like to encourage us all to consider is, how are we slowly moving our way towards physical intimacy? I'm talking baby steps. I'm talking one little thing at a time. For instance, if you are having zero physical contact right now, what is one small step you can take to include physical contact? Is it as he walks past you in the kitchen, put your hand out and touch his arm? Is it holding hands while you ride in the car together? How about sitting next to each other while you watch a movie? Something non-sexual touching. And it's going to be important, by the way, if you feel like you're ready to begin moving in that direction, you need to communicate to your husband that you are driving this train. Just because you hold his hand is not an invitation for sex. Because if it's been months and you haven't done anything, he may be starving for physical affection, and he feels that and he's like, oh goody, here we go. Try to make it clear to him that that is not what you're doing. You're building up to having healthy physical intimacy with him, and he needs to let you drive. And then when you're ready to have sex, you'll have a conversation with him. But right now, you're building up. So start small, the very small things. And tell him, be clear with him what he's allowed to do. Is he allowed to touch you? Is it okay if he passes you in the kitchen and touches your arm or touches your back? You know, are you not ready for the tushy pats yet? How about kissing? Is kissing okay? So you know, and I know this doesn't sound very sexy, and I know it doesn't sound very romantic, and I understand that. This is you rebuilding some semblance of intimacy in a relationship that has been severely damaged. And you're doing it at the pace in which you emotionally and mentally and physically are willing to do it. Because we don't want you further traumatized by having sex when you're not ready to have sex. Go slow. Okay? So that's step one. Okay, well, actually, that's step two. First, talk to your husband. Step two, go slow. Pay attention to how these small steps feel. Like, if you held hands in the car on the way to go on a date, how did that feel to you? Was it really, really hard for you to physically be in contact with him? Did it feel good? Did it feel nice? Could you move to hug him before you get back in the car? What do you feel ready for? And what you're going to need to do over time is you're going to need to just gauge how you feel, and if you feel good. And if you hit a stumbling block, if you hit a place where you're like, that doesn't feel good, don't do that for a while. Take that back off of the table and put it back on. Okay? Now, here's the biggie. When you get to a place, and you probably will get, if you build this up and do it well, when you get to a place where you're able to have physical intimacy again, it's going to be weird and it's going to be clumsy, and you may struggle, you may cry. There may be a lot of things happening, and you just need to be okay with that. It's okay. I cried more during sex than I have in my entire life during that period. And it was heartbreaking for my husband, I know, to watch me suffer in that way. And I don't know that I was suffering as much as I was hurting. I grieved the fact that sex was no longer easy for us to fall into anymore. I grieved the fact that it was challenging. Even though we went through hysterical bonding, I would still cry after. It was weird, and I get it. Time is going to be your best friend in these scenarios. The pace at which you do this is going to be your best friend. Do not rush it. Be sensitive to yourself. Hopefully, your husband is going to understand. He's welcome to listen to this video if that's helpful. Work through, if you're going to couples counseling, talk to your counselor about this. Work through this with your counselor. What are some ways in which you two can really have frank sex conversations in the counselor's office where it doesn't just feel weird, right? So think about that. What do you need? What would be the best thing for you? And take it slow. You do not have to be in a hurry. Okay, this is not a race. Take it slow. Over time, many of us end up getting back to a very healthy, very satisfying sex life. Physical intimacy becomes just something that we do and we're happy with it. I'm at that place. My husband and I have a great sex life. So it's all about the health up here and here and our physical self, right? We need to approach this in a way that works best for us in the midst of our affair recovery. As I've said, I've been where you are, and if this is something that you feel like working with someone like me, working with a coach could be helpful. I'm a master certified coach, and this is what I do. And I would love an opportunity to work with you. So if you are looking for someone to work with like me, I offer free consultations. You just click the link below this video and schedule a free consult with me. There is no obligation. I'll help you a little bit. So you kind of can see what coaching looks like. I'll help you with something you're struggling with as best I can. And then I'll tell you a little bit about coaching to see if this is a good fit for both of us. So I invite you to do that. And if you haven't joined my Facebook group yet, I invite you to do that as well, because it's a wonderful tribe of women who are going through the same thing that you're probably going through. So I invite you to do that. And of course, my YouTube channel is always here. Please subscribe. I try to post these as often as I can, so that way you get notified when my newest video is up. So remember, time is your best friend. Baby steps.